Welcome. In this So Easy tutorial, we'll show you how to do paper foundation piecing. Now, foundation paper piecing is used when you want to create unusual shapes or designs that would be very difficult to either measure or to cut or even to stitch. For example, we have a couple things here. These kinds of stars with sharp angles that aren't ones we're used to seeing in quilting, but are really enticing and we want to maybe take a stab at. Also, when we get into really small units, like in the background of this Mariner's Compass type block. Okay, so if you're looking at a pattern that has paper foundation piecing, you're going to find units that you're going to need to copy onto paper. And for example, this would be one. You might find this really unusual shape that has numberings on it so that there are 3 different fabrics that we're going to use, 1, 2, and 3. Now, 4 of those units placed together, if you'll see the back, this unit appears in this block 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we need to really do is accomplish just these 3 small pieces. So let's jump in. The first thing we're going to do is once you've copied all of your pieces, I go back and trim away the excess paper. We only need about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch around the outside solid lines of these pieces. The rest of the paper is just going to get in the way. We want to reduce the bulk a little bit. So then we come in and we see all of these broken lines on our pieces, and those are stitching lines. There are 2 broken lines that dissect this into sections, and what we're going to do is then fold on those broken lines, and I'm going to make a nice crisp fold and fold back the other direction too. That weakens that spot in the paper so it's easy for removal later. So we go throughout the entire piece. Now you may find there are many different techniques used for paper foundation piecing. This is one that we like. So scoring that one. Now we have all those folds ready to go. Now what we need to do is cover each of these sections with a different fabric, 1, 2, and 3. You'll follow your instructions in your pattern that call for the various shapes. Sometimes they'll have you cut squares, rectangles, usually oversized, and it will let you know, yes, these pieces are oversized and can easily fit over the shapes you're trying to create. In this case, I've created some oversized triangles. And if we look, this is where fabric number 1 is going to be positioned. And if we look at our paper, it does say number 1. So what we want to do, if we were to lay it this way on top, it would cover our stitching lines and we wouldn't know our road map. So that means we need to turn the fabric over. So we reverse it like this and lay the paper on top. Now I can see where I'm stitching, and the pretty side of our block is going to be created on the underside. You'll see that there's a margin all the way around and here. So all 3 sides, we know it's centered, and we will have fabric covering the entire piece of our paper. Okay, now we've got 1. Now we need number 2. I'm going to put just a pin in here to hold the layers together as I kind of move them around. So I'm going to shift this around. We're going to fold. We're going for number 2, but this extends a long ways. I overcut. Once you cut it off, you can't put it back on. So at this point, though, we know we've covered section number 1, and we're going to trim, giving us a 1/4 inch seam allowance just to reduce the bulk within our block later. So trimming here. Okay, now we'll take this away, and you'll see that's about a 1/4 inch all along. Now we need to have fabric under number 2. So we're taking our fabric that would be in the place of number 2, slide it under here like this. So we know, but we have to have a seam allowance. So that means we're picking it up like this. We can put the cut edges together, and then the right sides of the fabric We're used to sewing with right sides together. So right sides together, lay it back down. Nice part about video is you can always go back and watch it again. I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to take this pin and I'm going to reposition now through both layers of fabric. That way when I pick it up to move it to the sewing machine, nothing will shift out of place. Okay, now we're going to take it in. The paper opened up so we can see the dotted line. And the fun part is that we don't have to worry about 1/4 inch seams. We're just going to sew on the dotted line. So we're going to go all the way across. The other tip when you're doing paper piecing is to set your stitch length to a little bit shorter stitch than you're used to, just by about 1/2 step. The reason for that is you're going to tug on that seam line later when you're removing the paper, and a little shorter stitch length will give you more stability. Okay, we've stitched from the outside edge of the block, so the solid line is crossed. We'll take this pin out, do the little reveal on the right side. The fabric should cover all the way across our paper. You shouldn't see any paper on those edges. And make sure you open it all the way up. If you stitched right on the line, it'll be nice and accurate that way. And then you can take it to the iron and press just lightly. It doesn't need steam because we have paper on the back, which will kind of warp our block. So dry iron works perfectly. Now we've covered 1 and 2. All we need is number 3, and that goes here. So let's look on the other side where our road map is. There's number 3, but I have that excess. The stitch will pop out there just right. We had that oversized. What we need to do is get back to a 1/4 inch seam allowance again. So we're going to leave the paper rolled back. We're going to come in and trim away the excess. And when you make some of these blocks, you'll realize there may be some really thick intersections. That's why we're trimming away the excess. So that piece goes away. We know we have a 1/4 inch there, but we need the fabric to cover number 3. So in this design, fabric number 3 is this one. Make sure that you get right sides together. So I'll rotate that you can see better. Right side to right side. Place it under there. And they're oversized again. Lay the paper back down. If you need a pin, it might be easier for you at first to be able to transfer and not have things shift. Take it over to the sewing machine. And again, at first it can be challenging because you're not used to sewing kind of blind. We're used to be able to see all of our fabric at all times, and here we're sewing with it underneath and kind of out of sight. So remember, your first block might be your kindergarten block, but you'll advance quickly. Take the pin out. The reveal is that this piece then should cover all of the paper. Again, make sure you open that seam allowance or seam all the way open. The idea is to get precision, and if you don't open that seam up all of the way, you will get kind of what they call a false stitch, and they won't be quite as accurate. Now you can see as we finish here that the fabric extends all the way around the outside edge and it looks a little messy. At this point, we just simply go in with a ruler and we'll precision cut the outer edge. And this is where I will give you the tip of my life. I went to class and I was working on it and I cut in the wrong place. You want to cut on the solid line. Otherwise you're going to be doing it again. Work your way along, trim up the outer edge of the unit. And by the time you get to the last one of these, 4 of them to make a block, you'll be just zipping along, making a really fun block with a lot of precision without too much effort. Okay. Now you will see that we have 4 blocks. I have 3 that are already prepared. I have to follow my layout so that it looks just like this one. 2. These light chocolate color pieces are in the outer corners. And it would be a simple construction similar to a 4-patch. These two together, and then join in the center to create this block. Now, you can also create many units. The one that we created here is a little bit different color combination, but this is the center block. These are also similar blocks, but different colorways. And look at the wonderful play of motion and color we get in this block. All of this is paper pieced. People always have the last question, when does the paper come out? Well, we started to remove the paper here just to show you how it comes out, but the best time to remove the paper is when all the outer edges, say for instance, this block is now stitched into a unit. Take the paper out there and work your way out. So that the paper, just put your finger under the edge. Remember how we weakened those folds? Paper comes out just like that. And you can make these great designs in tiny little pieces by patiently just remembering flip, cut, trim. Paper foundation piecing, it's fun. For more of our So Easy tutorials, visit our website. Thanks for joining me.